I'm Jen.
I'm Steven.
And we're here to talk about ballot banter.
What a great topic, considering we just came off of a forum on Sunday where all of the propositions for the upcoming ballot vote were discussed.
So today we're going to discuss Proposition 1.
Which focuses on updating our bylaw language regarding our 9 standing committees.
Stephen, let's talk about some of the misconceptions.
Sure. You know, I think the biggest thing is sometimes change is hard.
Yeah.
We have to understand that our 9 standing committees were created at a time going back to 1979. Do you know how many homes we had in 1979?
Very little.
We had about 1,000 homes. And out of those 1,000 homes, what do you think the percentage of full-time residents was back then?
Less than like 2%.
Yeah, it was under 10% actually. So our 9 standing committees, which are great, and no one is saying that they're not, but we're looking at a 45-year span where our community has grown from 1,000 homes to almost 3,500, from a 10% full-time occupancy rate to over 51% of full-time residents now. And a lot of change has happened. But our strategic committees and how they operate has not been updated to reflect the current needs and the current priorities of running hemlock farms.
Yeah, I can see that there's a real need for change within the committee structure. What do you think we would, or the current committee structure, what do you think some of the change would be needed? What are some of those changes that would be needed?
Well, I think the most important thing is to have the conversation. We know, and we've all heard, going to board meetings or forums or working with management saying, well, the bylaws prevent us. So the bylaws prevent us from even having a conversation of what could our current committee structure look like. Committees will never go away. And I want to address firsthand some of the feedback that I did receive where people are propelling a misconception that they're taking away our committees, we no longer have a voice, and so on. That type of banter, to me, is irresponsible to the community because that's not what's happening. What we're doing is we're looking at a structure that'll be more fluid, that could be updated annually, that will hopefully entice more people to get involved because the committees will have a broader reach, be more productive, and they'll be very task-specific, partnering with management and the board, so projects would have a specific beginning, end date, and parameters around them. Have you ever served on a subcommittee that went for a year and then nothing came of it?
Oh my gosh. I mean, being that I served on the recreation committee for many years, yes.
Yeah.
We kind of go around and around and around and around the table quite often.
Yeah. So this year was really interesting. Out of the work of the ad hoc, Sean and his team worked with the board and piloted some task-specific projects for committees. And we saw the productivity increase. I can speak for PLUA. We had a subcommittee focusing on new development guidelines. We were given a task, we worked in between the meetings, we submitted it, went through the first 2 readings, and now it's going to be implemented into a policy. That was a specific task with parameters. And I think that's what the community is looking for, to say, I want to become involved. I'm not sure, you know, if I'm interested in this particular topic that we're talking about at a committee meeting. So regardless of where we are today, we want a conversation to at least happen that there is flexibility in what our committees look like and what our committees' operating structure will be. But we can't even have this conversation unless we update our bylaws.
Yeah, and I can see that. I mean, our bylaws as it stands now are, I mean, I'm going to be 46, and I mean, they're 45 years old.
Yeah.
Some of them have not been changed. So I can see, you know, obviously serving on this committee, I can see it on both sides, and I can also see it on somebody, you know, who's been a long-standing committee members, and their hesitance to look at this bylaw change as a real moving into the future as opposed to staying back in 1979, although it was a great year.
It was a great year for disco.
For disco, fantastic. I mean, 78 was even better. That's when I was born. But, like, what do we say to, or how do we help those individuals kind of navigate and realize that this change may not be, you know, a dramatic change where you
Right.
know, nobody's voice is heard. More
Right.
so of a true collaboration and partnership
Yeah.
with the integral parts of board, management,
Right.
committee members, community members. Actually, it's more of community being together.
Yeah.
So how do we kind of you know, break down the misnomer
Yeah.
of change being negative as opposed to change being positive for this this
That's
particular
such
proposition?
a great question. And when this ad hoc was created by the board, they felt there was a need to assess are 9 standing committees the right committees, are relevant, and so on. The first thing that we did, as you know, we served on this ad hoc together, was we wanted to value and hear the opinion of those that serve on committees. So right now, our committees add up to about 150 people, with multiple people on multiple committees. So really, it's about 110 to 20 people involved out of a community of how many thousand? But we wanted, those voices were so important. So we provided a survey where we asked current committee members, what do you love about committees? What don't you love about committees? How could the committee structure be improved? That was the basis of the work we did. Hundreds of suggestions came in on how to improve committee structure, focusing on being more productive, being less duplicative, and feeling like I'm making a contribution. That's the fabric of Hemlock Farms. That voice will always be here. Your participation on committees will never go away. We are just looking to not be at the mercy of our bylaws written in 1979, where our community was completely different and our needs were different. In 1979, there was maybe one person in public safety. We didn't have a rec department. So committees served a greater purpose to help do the work of teams that are now fully in existence. We have entire payrolls devoted to recreation, public safety, incredibly talented people that work here with us. How do committees enhance that, provide ideas, provide feedback? So when we had these bylaws created in 1979, we didn't have an infrastructure. We have an incredibly talented Hemlock Farms team here.
Yeah, and I think it really stands to the point of, you know, we have grown in 45 years. I mean, we have grown in leaps and bounds, and in order for us to continue to grow, this little minute change, and I know to some people would be like, oh, this isn't a small change,
Right.
Steve. You know, Jen, what are you talking about? This is a small minute change in my perception of it, is because it will enhance the opportunity for more people to be involved on a multitude of levels. And I feel like, to your point, when we did survey the 150 people, and there were so many repeat members serving on multiple committees, it really didn't afford for the whole community to take part in some of the, infrastructure changes or, tasks that were being given. So their voice is really not being heard because it's just the small population, less than, I'd say 2%, 3% of the total community that's involved in these committees. So really, this proposition change would afford more of an opportunity for more people to be involved.
Yeah, I think I would say ballots sometimes can be complicated to truly understand, and this one definitely might tug on the heartstrings because, once again, we are looking to, I wouldn't say change, but update, to modernize. And I think if you look at any successful company, I personally work for a brand that's over 151 years old. Every year, we look at our strategic priorities, and then we develop committees to achieve those strategic priorities. And they're constantly being tweaked. Right now, if we wanted to change the name of one of the standing committees, we couldn't because of our bylaws. If we wanted to change the purpose of that standing committee to be more reflective of what's going on in the community, or where Sean and John and the management team feel, hey, this committee would be great to help us with this, we can't. So until we have our bylaws changed, then we could at least entertain the conversation.
That is so fair, and it's really key point. In order for our bylaws, in order for us to have this conversation, our bylaws need to change. In order for us, like, we are so like choked by our bylaws.
Correct.
And our bylaws were never meant to be static or concrete. Bylaws are living, breathing. It's meant to have movement. It's meant to flow. It's meant to go back to the strategic plan and make sure that those actionable items are being met. Like, 45 years, if I just stayed still in myself, think about it. You kind of grow roots and you can't move.
It's true.
You can't move. So like, I don't ever want us to feel as a community, as management, as even a committee member or volunteer that we are so stagnant that we can't move. And it doesn't mean that movement or we'll say change is a bad thing.
No.
Because you can look at it and redirect it, and you can sculpt it, and you can make it, what we want to make it.
Yeah.
And that's the important key here, is that just because this proposition is up doesn't mean that it's going to impede our ability to have a voice as volunteers. It is not going to impede our ability to have committees. It is not going to impede our ability to be heard. That's, I think, what the key notion is that your voice, our voice is loud. We are proud Hemlock Farms members and residents here. So really, I don't think regardless of how you vote on this proposition, and that's the key, is regardless of how you vote or what you feel, looking at it from, and take yourself out of the equation. Look at Hemlock Farms 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road. I say this all the time. I have been a proud Hemlockian for many, many years. I grew up here. My summers were spent here. I worked for the community. I lived and raised my family in this community. I think there's no greater testament to see how we've evolved over time. And with so many new members coming in, wanting to be a part of having their voice heard and being part of the committees, I think this just gives us an opportunity to make it not new, but make it our own now in 2024. And not forget about the past.
Well said.
Because we learn from the past. We're using the past to help us drive our future.
Yeah. Well said. So I think the last thing, or what we want to ensure, is that ask us. You all know us. We're easily reached. If you have a specific question about this ballot to help you make your decision, please, you all know how to reach
us.
You know how to reach us. Because what I would really ask is for you to reach out to us versus reading some of the things that people's opinions might be that are interpreting it as we're taking something away. We are not. We volunteer to be on an ad hoc at the request of a board and in partnership with management on how we can improve our committee structure system. And that's what it really comes down to. To have a conversation about committee structure, we have to have a bylaw update, and that's truly what this proposition is about. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us. We'll answer any questions that you may have. So I think there's going to be a way to ask us questions directly.
And there will be a chat form where you can submit your questions, be it on social media, newspaper, and if we have to come back to a forum like this or to the annual forum or what have you, we will be happy to answer your questions.
And we hope you enjoyed
this issue
of Ballot
Banter with Jen
and Stephen.
Have a great afternoon.